Germany and day one of the Summer Split. I'm Quickshot, joined by Ender as the kings of Europe. Oh, hold on a second. The kings of the world! G2 Esports take to the stage. They will be challenged by Splyce. And it's a tall task. What a tough task for Splyce.
Oh, it absolutely is. You know, Splyce has always been one of those teams peering on the edge, trying to make it into that top 3, to make it on towards a Worlds run. G2 is tough competition to go against for their very first game. We heard it from them in that video too. They're not excited about it either.
You're playing G2 Esports first, and I think with Xerxe was like, beep. So let's turn to the draft. We're about to get into game one. And how much has changed since MSI? There has been a few other leagues that have started up already. So what can we anticipate from the draft? And will we see any unique picks?
Honestly, we expect very similar drafts from MSI. You know, flex picks, strong solo laners are always going to be the best. But I love that you bring up those unique picks because Wunder at MSI we saw bring out so many different things. And actually heard from the G2 camp that he had 7 completely unique to him champions bringing into that tournament. I like to call them the 7 wonders of the LEC, but we saw some of them. We saw 2. We saw the Vayne. It wasn't really that impressive, but the Pyke, that was all his, and he crushed with it.
And I absolutely love seeing the Pyke has actually been picked up in multiple other leagues. I've seen it in NA, I've seen it in LCK. It hasn't been used to G2's effectiveness, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely not.
What about the kitty cat, Yuumi?
Oh yeah.
Permaban, permapresence, like insta.
I mean, I'm going with perma-presence. I don't know if it'll be banned necessarily every game. One thing about the champion is that it does look terrible when it falls behind, but as you can see here, G2 Esports not actually even willing to go for the first pick, and a part of this might be of the fact that they did play on 9.8 for so long. They have not had as much time as a team like Splyce to play the newest champions in the game in Yuumi.
And let's see whether or not it's going to hurt G2 Esports. We heard the analyst desk talking about how Splyce and their support staff have been one of the better teams at coming into a week, coming into a patch, and being prepared, being researched. So we're waiting for the second ban here. For Splyce, it will be Irelia, targeting what is effectively a triple flex on the side of G2, as you've seen Perkz running that many times in the past. 1 ban left for G2 Esports, and we know Akali has been hit by the nerf bat a little bit. I'm still seeing her played, so want to see if she's going to show up at all this weekend. Yeah,
typically Akali we'll see fall down towards maybe the second rotation of picks as more of a niche option, but I like to see G2 Esports ban away the Xayah here. This is one of the champions that really benefited from the Essence Reaver buffs. 5 AD, you can meme it all you want, but it still is going to be impactful, and obviously G2 want to split up that from potential Rakan as well.
All right, so let's see what the final ban from Splyce is going to be, and then Andrew, I know it's a difficult task at the beginning of a season, but what champions are first pick worthy, first rotation worthy on the current patch?
Well, I was going to say G2 could just go ahead and hit the random button and lock it in, but the Sylas, they don't even give me the chance to. I'm actually interested because usually you would expect G2 to pick up the Ryze themselves when that is available. They use that flex option to great effect here, but with the Sylas themselves, they can steal that Realm Warp and make some similar plays that we've seen from this team in those hype late game situations.
Exactly. No real changes then as far as the priorities from MSI just yet. At least in the pick phase, obviously ban phase, a little different. Into the Ryze Rek'Sai. Let's see what G2 Esports decide to throw down. A little bit of a confused face there on Jankos as Grabs and the rest of the squad are now deciding on these picks.
I mean, the Jarvan seems like the most likely option to me. Match early game pressure with more early game pressure. And speaking of these 2 junglers, this is actually a patch that I think Rek'Sai really likes. Even with some nerfs coming in, the change of the Scuttle Crab to make it not spawn until most junglers hit level 3 makes junglers like Jarvan a little bit worse. They spike on level 2, whereas the Rek'Sai, you hit level 3, you're gonna love to tussle in the river.
Yeah, definitely the case. And talking about fighting and tussling, where does this Neeko go?
Anywhere, top,
it's
mid, bot.
So difficult. The thing that is exciting though is it means it's still fun to watch. It's still exciting to see G2 Esports on the Rift and not 100% know where these champions are going.
See, if G2 is not the team playing, I would say it's most likely top lane with the Glacial Augment build, but this is a champion that Perkz actually really likes to pilot himself down in the bottom lane. We have 2 of our mage players in this game between Perkz and Kobbe, but Kobbe doesn't want to go for that because the key that worked for Splyce in the spring split was late game scaling AD carries for Kobbe, and the Sivir is an excellent choice.
Yeah, definitely the case. Late game support, if you can survive long enough against a team like G2 Esports. The next ban is going to be Alistar, so a smorgasbord of champions in multiple lanes being taken off the table.
Yeah, and the Alistar ban is purely because it hard counters Sivir. When you have the headbutt plus pull, she can only spell shield 1, and if you spell shield, it's just really not effective at all. She would get into a lot of trouble.
And of course, another support ban after Alistar is taken away from the pool. Thresh now targeted towards Norskeren. technically speaking, Pyke is still open. And I'm just excited about it because I loved seeing what Wunder could do on the champion. I want to see how the rest of this draft plays out and whether or not it's something you would even consider.
See, I would consider it, but only if you're planning on putting the Neeko in the bottom lane. Because if you look at G2's comp right now, they are lacking a bit in physical damage. So, you know, standard teams would say, okay, we have Sylas mid, Neeko top lane, then we have an AD carry to make up for that. But G2 do have the bonus of having that extra flexibility to sculpt every draft and wait until what they see Splyce go for next.
Yeah, exactly the case. One last ban then on the side of G2 before we end to phase 2 of the picks. Taking their time, and it will be the Jace taken away. Seen a lot of Jace out of every other major region that has started up. Still an incredibly powerful pick at all stages of the game.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing with Jace now that he has been knocked down just a little bit is it's much less first rotation bans, and he does sneak into the picks a little bit more, but it really is the scaling on his Q that got hit. It means he can pressure you much less in that 1v1 matchup as he gets points in that ability.
And of course, Rumble now locked in. Does this give you any indication into what Splyce might think is happening in that top lane, as I assume that's Ryze mid Rumble top?
Well, here's the thing. Vizicsacsi has played the Rumble top before. I expect the Rumble to go into the top lane, but there's also been some rumblings in Challenger solo queue about that Rumble in the mid. So we'll wait and see, but the expectation should fully be Rumble up top.
And of course, now that we've got the Lucian locked in here for Perkz, gives us an indication that Neeko was likely in the top lane into Wunder's hands, as well as Caps taking on that Sylas. But now Gragas is being hovered for a few seconds before it switched away to Braum. And the only reason I mentioned it, you did your research, Ender, and you thought it could have been in the mid lane.
Yeah, Cap's actually been playing a lot of full AP Gragas in the mid lane, but also even if it was support, Mikyx plays a lot of full AP Gragas there too, so why not? Of course, looks like Splyce will finish it out with grabbing the Rakan themselves. Of course, this champion did receive some nerfs to make his engages less snappy and less reliable, but it is still going to help set up for things like the Equalizer and all the ricochet damage that a Sivir can do.
Now, the G2 Esports comp is something I was somewhat expecting. Obviously, we've seen them much more recently than Splyce. What do you make of the Splyce composition? The Sivir Rakan duo, not something I've seen yet here in Europe, and then the Rumble in the top lane.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think they have a lot of cool options. Specifically, whenever you see Rumble, you think, you know, early mid-game fights around objectives like the Dragon. You hit level 6 and you have the Equalizer, you can TP down, and this team has a ton of area of effect damage to try and scrap and to try and fight. But one thing they do have to look out for is that G2 have a lot of power picks across their lanes. They have a ranged top laner in Neeko who should push out, who should win. They also have the Lucian Braum, a very powerful 2 versus 2 that should have the upper hand down bottom side. So I think Splyce have to play a little more cautiously and try to absorb the early pressure of G2.
All right, and that's something Splyce can do well. We've seen their early game be some of the most impressive from the Spring Split. They've got the caliber and the ability in the players to do so.
They absolutely do, and one of the best players for them in the early game is Xerxe. This jungler has so much ability to impact the map.
Well, a lot of ability indeed. Will Xerxe and Splyce step up to the defending MSI champions? The 2019 LEC Summer Split Game 1 starts right now between G2 Esports and Splyce. And we're on the Rift. It has finally started here in Europe, and I can't wait to see exactly what these teams get up to. One of the things I want to talk about immediately as G2 Esports are moving into Splyce's territory, using Demacian's standard, pushing some vision forward. Haven't placed a very deep ward just yet, but let's talk about this laning phase. You mentioned surviving early, you know, playing safe, not conceding too much. In terms of where the lane priority or push might lie, what should we expect of the next few minutes?
I think side lanes for G2 you expect to be pushing out because, again, you have the range of the Neeko, and it's actually not going to be the Glacial Augment that's a little bit more popular around the world. Wunder has preferred this press the attack on hit style of Neeko to really bully in that 1v1. You'll probably see him go for something like the Wit's End as well in this specific matchup. But top lane, bot lane for G2 will be very successful early on. I think if Splyce Splyce want to do something, it would be playing around this mid lane. Because Caps doesn't have a cleanse, you know, you could root him up. Xerxe has the Hail of Blade, so he does have the ability to impact earlier on.
All right, so there's the expectation setting, and now it comes down to player execution. And that's what we're going to be watching. And much like the analyst desk mentioned as well, it's always interesting coming into these opening matchups where the team that went to the international event in G2 may be less experienced on the subsequent patches. Because obviously Splyce not only got to watch from home, but has been playing on the live servers, and in theory has had an earlier time to play on the more recent patches.
Yeah, it's been an interesting discussion about G2's return to the league because, you know, a lot of people say they're not practicing as much necessarily, but I say they just won MSI. It doesn't matter. This team still should be coming in very high form. And yes, they might not be as experienced on the current patch, but this team is certainly good enough to give, you know, a tough time to any team here in the LEC.
Yeah, absolutely the case. So let's keep an eye. I want to definitely see how Vizicsacsi's Rumble does. It is a very, very old school pick, and these early stages of the game into Neeko, always going to be a little bit brutal. Ranged harass and auto attacks going to be challenging to deal with. 11 CS to 5 after the first 2.5, nearly 3 waves. And Xerxe, if this wave continues to be pushed, will have some opportunities to jump onto Wunder. It's very difficult to catch this chameleon because of her kills.
Yeah, looking from Xerxe's early game pathing, I don't think he's actually interested in ganking Wunder. I think they're going to be sacrificing Vizicsacsi for a lot of this early laning phase. You know, if he wanted to gank top, he could have gone red Raptors, then Krugs for a gank, but instead he went red Krugs and then started pathing down. So looking to cover the pushing Kobbe and Norskeren more so, then try to bail Vizicsacsi out of the tough top lane.
All right, and I wonder if any opportunities will present themselves. Perkz and Mikyx running this Lucian Braum bottom lane. Two that we did see a whole lot over in MSI. And Xerxe, after picking up the Scuttle Crab, does spawn a little bit later. If you haven't kept up with the patch notes, he'll be in position to contest. Notice Jankos in the bottom half of the map as well.
Yeah, and because Jankos is down here, actually, I think Xerxe has a good chance to look to take control of both Scuttle Crabs. He's going to be seen on a ward pathing up towards the top side of the map now, but Jankos went for a full clear early on. Now he has a red smite, so he may actually try to find Xerxe in the jungle because Xerxe, of course, hasn't gone for the reset just yet.
All right, not just yet. Starts the recall literally as you're talking about it. Going to be able to pick up his first complete jungle item. And every time I look at the minimap, Kobbe and Norskeren with the early push, but Chachi's just getting bullied under.
Chachi's getting really bullied, and if he doesn't go for a base here and TP back in, keep your eyes on Jankos. There was a blue side ping on towards the Splyce Krug camp that should be spawning around the 430 mark. Now Jankos clears this Scuttle Crab and can now path up top lane because he knows he has the support of Wunder. What he doesn't know is that he was actually spotted out on a ward, and Xerxe has some idea about it.
All right, Xerxe, fortunately, because of that Rek'Sai passive, will find Jankos. Jankos has a ward up in that top Krug camp, as you mentioned. So Xerxe is going to have a lot of information, but instantly backing away, not quite willing to pick the fight yet. Look, Chachi's still defending a minion wave underneath his turrets.
Yeah, it's very problematic here. Jankos lands the smite, and Xerxe is just going to be trying to get scraps here. Notice, too, that Caps has now pushed up this minion wave as well. Something G2 did so much at MSI was move Caps toward the top lane and look for turret dives. It has to be something on the minds of Splyce right now.
Well, definitely when you can unlock Wunder, he can unlock the game for you, and that's something that has happened a lot. No kill secured. Splyce down 500 gold, thanks to those CS deficits, and with this control in the top half of the map, Jankos is really just having a field day, running over Xerxe's jungle. It was a smite by the Krux.
No!
Xerxe, unfortunately, does not pick that one up, so Jankos able to walk away. And the only small circumstance here is that Kobbe has a small CS advantage over Perkz.
I'm going to say right now, if Rek'Sai's E was not nerfed, Xerxe would have had the damage, he would have gotten the smite down and gotten the Raptor, but unfortunately now, Xerxe going to be a level up over Jankos going to be a level up over Xerxe.
Yeah. So what you just said, muscle memory doesn't help you there most likely. Or
I would have made the same mistake.
Small miscalculation. A little bit of a fan of Hail of Blades Rek'Sai there. Ender, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. It's the best rune for him.
There we go, and that's why Xerxe picked it. But of course, we did see, as I mentioned, Kobbe and Norskeren just continually shoving in, and these junglers, they seem to be playing on the same side of the map the entire time. So good information sharing, good spotting. And now, again, with Humanoid being pushed all the way under the tower, Caps is potentially the first to roam, which I think is why Xerxe doesn't start the fight.
Yeah, there's a couple reasons why Xerxe can't fight. First of all, mid lane and top lane are getting pushed in very far for G2, so even when the fight was topside, Vizicsacsi couldn't really help him. Second, Jankos went for the challenging smite, whereas Xerxe went for the chilling smite. That means that Jankos has the on-hit, damage that he's going to do in these duels. He also does a mini exhaust on towards Rek'Sai as well, so all fights should go in Jankos' favor up until I think level 6 is when Rek'Sai really gets a lot of power and could turn things around.
Well, we're getting closer and closer to that point, but thus far, this was sort of the game plan. Stood on top of a ward, the recall will complete there from Xerxe, and what I was saying, during Draft Ender, you were mentioning that Splyce really just wanted to sort of mitigate, play slow, play controlled, but Norskoren's in a little bit of trouble. We'll be able to dash backwards. Now Kobbe gets away. No summoner spells used just yet. Kobbe actually, I think, spell shield up that little attack from Perkz. But the wave is pushing forward, and as I was mentioning, slow and steady, scale up, get your items, get Chachi through this early phase where he was down 15 odd CS at one point, still down 10, but that feels so much less bad as time goes forward.
Yeah, it certainly does, especially once you start getting up some of that flat magic penetration on the Rumble. You're going to do a lot of damage against relatively squishy targets on the side of G2. Shouldn't be able to build up too much magic resist themselves. I would like to, focus in on the bottom lane for just a moment, because we finally saw Perkz and Mikyx pushing up, taking an aggressive trade, but that's because they had Jankos with them. Early on, we expected them to win the fights, but because Jankos had a much higher focus on setting up his top laner, Wunder, it allowed Kobbe and Norskeren to push in the wave and use their teleports to consistently apply pressure.
All right, those teleports are on cooldown now for everybody across the map. And looking at the objectives, Herald's going to be up in the not too distant future, and we've got an Infernal Drake. So I want to talk a little bit about who do you think could make the first move here? Because one of the old school stories is don't mess up a dragon fight against an equalizer from Rubble, because that can be game changing. You're not getting a chance just yet as Chachi does shove Jankos out the way.
Yeah, I think the times of Rumble instantly winning a fight around Dragon based on his ultimate are a little bit gone to this point, but it is fair to say that in a 5v5, when you stack an on-hit Neeko in Wunder against Vizicsacsi's Rumble, that Rumble will certainly win out. So it is an interesting situation here where Splyce would prefer to find a fight, but because their jungler's actually on the back foot at the moment, it's difficult for them to engage anything until Vizicsacsi's TP comes up.
All right, so keeping my eyes on that, about 3/4 of the cooldown has already been used, and you can see Xerxe, he's just waiting in the wings. It feels like he's shadowing his lanes more than anything right now. Was, covering in the bot lane as Kobbe and Norskeren looked like they could have get jumped on, obviously covering top lane there as well. So the right place at the right time. We're getting closer to 10 minutes, that gold lead still slowly creeping up, around 800 gold, and Splyce, I think, are not going to be too disappointed with this. Assuming they do not concede kills or turret plates, that can allow G2 to accelerate the game.
Yeah, the best news for Splyce is that right now Kobbe has about a 200 to 300 gold lead over his counterpart in Perkz, and you know that Sivir will scale into the late game fights with that AoE damage much more effectively than this low range single target damage Lucian will. So Splyce are certainly comfortable at the moment, even though they are down 1,000 gold. The difficulty that you face though against playing against G2 and against a team comp that is built to play, very skirmish heavy and have the split push style, is that these small gold leads early on will balloon and get bigger and bigger until you can find that final 5v5 fight.
Especially if you look at the minimap, there's one plate missing in the mid lane. We'll get to that in a moment as Jankos has the opportunity to get in behind Norskeren. 2 more shots, will get the stun. That's a dash away to the side. Sivir ultimate is just enough movement speed, so they trade 1 ulti for 2. Technically, Splyce's favorite trade.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I think it was actually a very interesting gank there by Jankos. We see Wunder actually proxying the minion wave between Vizicsacsi. But I think that gank was actually just to burn a flash. They never intended to get any sort of kill out of it because Caps was going for a reset at the same time. I think the idea for G2 was if you can burn a flash, that means the next time Caps runs mid after that reset, you can push the wave and then find the collapse. But they didn't get the flash, so now they get stalled out a little bit more.
So planning a few steps ahead. Seen that a couple times. While we saw Wunder proxying that top lane, you can see Vizicsacsi's equalizers on cooldown. Just before he finished the back, he actually dropped that ulti, shoved the wave back out. It's 2/3 around again, so almost available. And Haunting Guys and Teleport is up. So that sort of timing window of starter play is up. But it may be too late because that's first blood to G2. Jankos has just led the way And everywhere Jankos goes, G2 are able to respond quicker.
Yeah, Jankos used the early game lane pressure, and then now at the 11-minute mark as well, more lane pressure. Just spot out Xerxe, invade into the jungle, find him out and easily kill him, and that first blood will result then in an Infernal Drake. The worst thing that could happen to Splyce, get snowballed on like this.
Oh, Realm Warp is now coming in. That was actually hijacked away. Caps doesn't get rooted into the tower though, with one tower shot. Humanoid's going to try to turn this one around. The Kingslayer is running back, Rune Prison comes out! The overload! Humanoid solo kills Caps!
Yes, he did! Caps went way too deep under the tower. I have no idea what he was doing with that Realm Warp, and Humanoid punishes him for it.
Oh, really nicely done. Humanoid turning Caps' aggression against him, and that was one of the players that we had our eyes on coming into this matchup. Whether or not Humanoid's growth and development from Spring Split could make him more competitive against the fields.
Yeah, because I felt like Humanoid's entrance into the LEC, it was all right, but it wasn't anything special. It was very average, and you know, in a very stacked role like the mid lane, that in itself is good for a team, but for Splyce, who wants to push into that top 3 and, you know, make some sort of contention against these top teams, you need to have a mid laner that can stack up against the likes of Perkz.
All right, you do indeed, and right now, there's an engage on the mid lane. Norskeren not gonna find anything. Really easy escape as Jankos was just standing behind Mikyx. And Splyce, by the way, they got 1 kill on the board. They also rotated their duo lane top, and now they've got themselves into a predicament where they can race for first tower. Wunder's gone to the bot lane, and there's a lot of shenanigans afoot as there's at least 3 or 4 members of each team in the top half of the map.
Yeah, Vizicsacsi now actually going to sacrifice some CS down bottom lane. He's going to walk back down there now, but you see Splyce want to find this 5v5. They make the call to back out in the end, and gonna get forced out of the river. That's gonna give a lot of control over to G2, who now have pressure in mid lane and could threaten starting up the Herald themselves.
All right, 1,000 gold advantage to G2 Esports. A number of plates fallen, 2 apiece in the top lane. Vizicsacsi finds himself 25 CS down from Wunder, and Kobbe's only a minion wave up, 7 and a bit. Humanoid around 10, nearly above Caps. I feel like this Infernal Drake would be worth more than the kill, especially as Humanoid has no flash, flag, drag, dunk. Wunder comes in with the autos, momentary blip.
Makes him wait for it.
And G2 pick up not only the kill, but they get themselves a bunch of plates, and this should be Tower First Blood as well.
Yeah, just 40 seconds on those plates going down. They're gonna be able to pick up all of them. G2 with a massive power play in the mid lane. We'll watch that one more time, maybe, because Jankos went for like the smallest EQ flash I've ever seen, but it was very good.
TV lane. This is already going to be a chase. While there's an engage up in the top lane, Norskeren cannot chase Perkz. What was that? Suiciding. Now down to the bottom lane. Pop Blossom. Not going to be enough. Caps picks up the kill. All of a sudden, Splyce, they bite off more than they can chew.
Oh, Splyce, what are you doing? It was close, and then all of a sudden, a very big misplay. Top side, they get TP'd on down bottom lane, but this is what G2 do so well. They just keep fighting you everywhere on the map, and they don't give you time to think.
No, they really don't. And remember, G2 set up the proactive plays early on. That's what allowed them to pick up first blood. Now they've punished the decision-making after Humanoid wins the 1v1. He was flashless, he was ganked within 60 seconds, and that opened up the tower. Fortunately, it didn't fall for Splyce, but they're down 3,000 gold because of moments like this.
Yeah, just a TP ward put very deep in the lane. You can see Vizicsacsi thought the play was going up towards topside. He has no support, but he greeted for that extra turret plate. And I hate to break it to you, buddy, but that is just not worth it as Caps got that kill.
No, absolutely not the case. The only benefit for Vizicsacsi is he's still holding onto his TP right now. He's got himself the equalizer available. So if there is some big team fight, Splyce need to dig themselves out of a hole. It is a significant gold lead. And it's a little disappointing because just pulling that grand entrance a little short from Norskeren, not finding Perkz, who, fair enough, was actually able to dash away as well. So all credit, you know, miss and dodge. And G2 turn around to get the counter kill.
Yeah, I mean, there are also those Rakan nerfs we talked about, making it easier to react to plays like that. So Perkz had more of a window of time to avoid that initial engage, and ends up spoiling that one for Splyce.
It does indeed. You just saw the graphic on your screen. Next game, by the way, is going to be Vitality versus Origin. That's because Schalke versus Excel is the last game of the day. There's more information on why that schedule change happened over on Twitter at LOL Esports. Rift Herald was started while I started that little update, and there was enough threat and counter threat for Splyce to bail out. Humanoid used the Realm to do so safely.
So what we're seeing is classic split push versus teamfight comp ideas going down right now. Splyce are bringing everyone in towards this top side of the map to try and take Herald, to try and take a fight, to try and get something, because right now Wunder is continuing to push down that bottom side, get a larger and larger CS lead, but they have to act quickly because Wunder could TP into a fight.
All right, Wunder's got that available. All members of Splyce are up here. Looks like the engage. Norskeren zoned away Perkz for now, but Kobbe's already low. The culling is deleting Splyce where they stand. Xerxe goes. That's a flash pop blossom. Not really going to do a lot, but Humanoid's left alone. The Rift Herald is unkilled, and only Vizicsacsi remains. That was a fantastic fight for G2.
Chachi's trying to become one with the Wolf Camp, but it is not enough as Perkz picks up the ace. While he's doing that, you have Caps pushing in on towards that mid lane. G2 blow wide open.
This is exactly the performance that you expect from the MSI champion to start their Summer Split campaign. It has been a controlled and calculated push to build themselves up nearly 7,000 gold leads.
And they've also come back in with exactly the same style that they were playing to such success at MSI. It's strong solo lane picks, it's the ability to split the map, push lanes, and play for a split push, but also when the time is right, you can group up because of the gold lead they got from the laning phase.
All right, let's take a look at this replay. So it's just before the Herald engage.
Yeah, Kobbe gets dumped with so much damage right there. He does flash out, but unfortunately, Wunder teleported straight on top of him. By the time that you reach this point in the fight, you realize G2 just collapsed from so many different angles. Splyce were searching so hard for that 5v5 that they put themselves in a position where there was no escape.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think, by the way, when I'm watching this game, all credit to G2. They're playing very well, very calculated. But I almost wonder if Splyce are worried about the plot armor. In many ways, when teams came up against SKT in years gone by, because it is SKT, you second guess, you doubt, you have these questions. Seeing some of the plays from these guys, like Chachi's just gonna get soloed.
Well,
seeing some of the plays, Norskeren missing the ultimates, you know, Chachi getting really bullied. Xerxe's been completely pushed away. I wonder if the guys are in their own heads just a little bit, because I expected a little bit more from Splyce, and this is a very strong team. And now all of a sudden, Kobbe's just going to kill that.
It just doesn't stop, Trav.
It doesn't. 11 kills, 18 minutes. Jankos has been everywhere, 0, 1, and 9, and the rest of the team's backing him up.
Yeah, and you can just see what G2 do. They control quadrants of the jungle. Right now, it's that northern side. They're going to get one inner tower. They're going to get two inner towers. Splyce are relegated to standing inside their base, and we're just 18 minutes into the game.
Beautiful, beautiful performance. At 14 minutes, G2 had around a 1,000 gold lead. 4.5 minutes later, they're about to break open the base. They've got themselves 9,000 gold. There's an engage. Chachi's down again. The equalizer can't even kill the minion wave. And now Humanoid's forced to flash defensively. The inhibitor's going to get killed before 20 minutes. Tanglebops will lock them up. Not going to follow on the flag and drag. Here comes a pop blossom. That gets the stun. That gets 2 more kills. Still a minute and a half before 20. And G2 get the inhib.
G2 speedran games last split. They're looking like they want to speedrun this entire summer right now. 19 minutes into the game onto the second inhibitor tower. This is the best team in the world.
Absolutely no doubt. Inhibitor in the mid lane will get chunked to 70-odd% before the rest of the squad start to back away. G2 Esports. Well, I tell you what, this is a statement. If ever I had seen one, and they're coming, they're showing, they're not done. MSI was the start. We'll have to see how far they can go.
Yeah, it's almost hard to say anything to that. G2 doing so well so early on. Now I'm just waiting, you know, what is the next big thing they're going to pull off? What's the craziness that will come our way? Because that's been the fun of this team, right? Is that it's not just that they're the best and they do it in a very calculated and, you know, controlled way. It's the fact that they always feel like they bring something unique and a new element to play.
Yeah, absolutely the case. And the decisiveness is just something to behold. It's beautiful. They can not only kill the entire enemy team, but they can take the inhibitor at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, Splyce just don't have the health bars to ever, you know, walk forward and provide a front line for Kobbe. Kobbe's got 2 items. He's like, guys, I'm doing all right compared to Perkz, but it really just is not enough. Everything around it isn't working for Splyce.
Yeah, we talked about that gold difference. You can see the big spike there. It was up for a moment, just before 15 minutes, and then just flew away. Second dragon of the game picked up. And this is the opening game of Summer. After this, every other LEC team will take to the stage, and they'll be watching this game, taking notes, and trying to figure out how to topple this behemoth.
I mean, Frost said it on the desk, G2 is the bar now.
Yeah.
When it comes to international competition, we never had that before. We never had a victor. So now G2 comes back home to Europe, and your play against G2 will give you accurate details of how you would perform internationally. Right now, it's clear that G2 is just the best.
For anybody that didn't manage to tune in just before Ready Check, we had that celebration of EU and G2 Esports. And in preparation and in research, one of the things that I giggled to myself about was one of the first teams that popularized this very aggressive, very proactive style was Moscow 5. Well before your time, young one.
I was not playing League of Legends when
No,
Moscow 5 was a team.
And while Splyce are under pressure, their motto was see hero, kill hero. G2 have perfected that. They're diving under an inhibitor turret at 21 minutes. They've taken it. The culling is going to push Humanoid away, and G2 Esports will take their third inhibitor of the game. Wait for some of those super minions to conga their way in, and then take down the Nexus.
Look, Splyce have all 5 members up, but this is just one of those points where you sit back and say, this is just a G2 thing. Perkz splashes in.
He does indeed. He dashes away from Norskeren as well. The Rakan engages are simply not good enough. Wunder's going to look for the Pop Blossom, and it will just be enough to farm. Cap steals away a Realm Warp. Now, will that be used stylishly? Realm Warp starts to channel underneath the fountain. Oh, Perkz and Caps go all the way in. All for one and one for all. Splyce get themselves 2 kills. Make that a third. As G2 Esports are now being run down. Caps is running for his life. Electro Harpoon's burning him down.
He's turning around. Caps going back in.
Oh my word! With the help of Wunder, the solo laners from G2 Esports do not care and turn it back around on Splyce.
G2 literally ran it down into the fountain, but Caps and Wunder are still strong enough to get the win. They go for another.
They are indeed. Xerxe
With
gets
his own
his ultimate
ultimate.
hijacked, adding insult to injury. G2 Esports catch off onto Kobbe. He's the last Splyce member standing, and he will not be able to stop this. The Nexus falls. G2 Esports obliterate Splyce.
Quickshot, that's still the same G2 that won MSI.
Maybe they are better.
Oh no.
I mean, that is fantastic. That is just really, really impressive. And there is no doubt that anybody coming up against this team for the very first game is going to have a tall task ahead of them. I expected more from Splyce, and I know this team can do better. It is just a matter of time, and it's a matter of not playing G2 Esports. So we need to see, right? It's very early days, but all credit to G2. They played extremely well.
Yeah, G2 absolutely on fire, still sticking with the same style that brought them home an international trophy and doing it in such a clean way. They continue to impress.
I really, really liked as well, as the team walked across, seeing Mikyx giving Kobbe just a hug there, of course, former teammates going up against one another. In G2, they start off their summer split with a bang. 22 minutes, 45 seconds. We'll have to see if they can keep defining how to play the game in the current meta, because their decision-making and their drafting, it's just phenomenal.
It's so good. And the scary thing is that they play a style that is not easy to execute. It's heavy pressure. If you make one mistake, it sets you back multiple minutes in terms of progress in a game. So the way they play is almost like testing their limits, but playing at a perfect level, a near perfect level, in order to have these games that end so quickly.
Yeah, big smiles on the side of G2 Esports. Jankos looks a little serious there, despite the fact that he sort of unlocked everything. It was his pressure that allowed the other laners, and vice versa, to play so forward and so deep in Splyce territory.
I mean, just imagine how terrifying it is to be Xerxe in this game, because Jankos just always in your jungle. He has his lanes to support him behind you. He walks in, he steals your Krug camp. So you say, okay, I'm gonna go down to my Raptors now. Okay, he does that too, and then he kills me when I'm over by my Wolves. Like, what can you do against that?
What can you do? And we're gonna have to start talking to all the other teams and players as well. Like, what can you do against G2? You know, that is the question. Who will stop them? Can anybody stop them? And who's going to rise up to the challenge? Those are the questions we're going to have to find out over the next 8 weeks, and I don't know if there is an answer.
So, I mean, somehow you have to slow them down early on, but even then, we've seen them in, 50-minute long games make insane decisions and have those good calls. So it's not even as black and white as don't let them snowball on you. You also just have to be able to beat them even at the 30-40 minute mark.
Ooh, okay, we've actually got something fun now. Let's check out actually some plays from the view of Caps specifically, because you can actually watch Caps POV as well as everybody else if you go check out riot.com/proview. So here's his POV of the Herald fights.
Yeah, so he already used the equalizer. Actually, he's going to hop in here and solo out Humanoid on the side. I was wondering actually if you were going to see him, you know, go for the tower dive underneath, but this is the turnaround. It's so good. You see he's laughing while doing it, and the shield actually runs out, but he knows that the Flame Spitter is down and Rumble was overheating. So Rumble actually can't do anything in this fight. Caps is able to sustain up to use his shields, just obliterate Splyce.
I mean, it's actually a bit demonic seeing him smiling through all of this. The healing from the W and then just the max range skill
and look,
shots.
he steals the Rek'Sai ult and gets another one. It's like, okay, now I guess we dive the fountain. They're not going to show the
Unbelievable.
You got to show him inting into the fountain.
No, it's tactical.
Okay.
Anyways, you can watch his POV, absolutely everybody else, riot.com/proview. It's time for Key Player of the Game at LOL Esports on Twitter. Jankos, Caps, and Wunder are your options. It's the top half of the map. I have to vote Jankos.
Yeah, I'm going to say don't let that last highlight reel play from Caps fool you. Jankos was the true MVP.
Yes, absolutely the case. We're not trying to persuade you or convince you of what to do. I can see an interview is ready, though, so as soon as we're... actually, we're going to head over right now to Laure and Splyce's coach.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you, Duke, for joining me. I guess starting the season against the MSI champion isn't ideal for you.
Let's say it's a good warm-up, but for sure, like the game was, we knew the game would be hard. We got a bit a taste of the medicine that every top team has been taking for a few months. It was pretty wild. They went full early game, and I think they were one, if not the only team that can draft like this in Europe. But they just don't do any mistakes. So.
Can you tell me about the turning points of the game here?
There was a point where, I mean, actually the first 10 minutes were pretty fine because they had 2 double TP advantage, but they didn't do much. We were expecting them to do Inferno pretty fast, but at some point, Caps had one mid prio, and we kind of, I think we lost a bit of focus. We got caught in the jungle, and then we saw the mid dive coming on Humanoid, but we were not fast enough to defend it. Starting that, once they started to basically to start their snowball with their comp, it was really, really hard to stop them. Yeah, so I would say the mid dive most likely is the problem.
I see. And in the video before the show, many players were talking about the fact that it's special playing against G2. Can you tell me what is special about it? You were mentioning the early drafting. Is there something else?
As a coach, it's always special to draft against G2 because there are a lot of champions. You can ask yourself, can we just give this champion to Caps, for example? So, for example, Sylas, we were asking ourselves the question, but at the moment in the meta, there are so many broken picks that you have to just take a decision on which champion we're going to give them. So here we did Sylas against Ryze, while also putting pressure on the jungle with the Rek'Sai pretty early, with an Elise ban. Yeah, so the draft is already really hard against G2, obviously, and then afterwards they play a really fast-paced game. They don't necessarily really play on side that hard. They usually really group and force with a lot of initiative on the map, and it's really hard to react if you're not prepared.
And it's something all of the teams will have to work on this split. Now, more about you. You went back to Berlin. How was it seeing your players again after the break?
It was great. I think last split we had a pretty good run. Unfortunately, we lost against Fnatic in I don't know, quarterfinals. I don't know how we can call this, but
round 2.
Yeah, we are pretty optimistic for this split. I think this is a really good group. We are really working well. So yeah, we're just happy to come back, and we'll already giving our best in training. So even if this game obviously didn't look too good, but that's how League of Legends is in a snowball meta, I would say. But yeah, I'm pretty optimistic.
We'll see if you have a better chance against Vitality tomorrow. Thank you, Duke, for joining me.
Thank you.
And we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, Vitality will take on Origin. Stay tuned, guys.
So that sort of timing window of starter players up, but it may be too late because that's first blood to G2. Oh, Realm Warp is now coming in. That was actually hijacked away. Caps doesn't get rooted into the tower though with one tower shot. Humanoid's going to try to turn this one around. The Kingclayer's running back. Room Prison comes out. The overload. Looks like the engage. Norskeren zoned away Perkz for now, but Kobbe's already low. The culling is deleting Splyce where they stand. Xerxe goes. That's a flash pop Blossom. Not really going to do a lot, but Humanoid's left alone.
Well, you didn't say anything, but...
Ready. He was ready. Oh, the Shy and Rookie. It's for your highlights, guys. It's for your highlights. Yeah. It's just for the highlights. It was worth.
G2 Esports catch off onto Kobbe. He's the last Splyce member standing, and he will not be able to stop this. The Nexus falls. G2 Esports obliterates Splyce.